Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri. The ABV Barrel Shop is focused on one thing, single barrels. Best of all, you can try before you buy. Head over to abvbarrelshop.com to sign up for their email and text distribution so you know what they have in stock, what classes are coming up, and who from the industry may be coming in to visit. The ABV Barrel Shop. It's where single barrels live. We are also sponsored by the Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers traveling minibars that are no bigger than a small purse or toiletry bag. Best of all, they are fully customizable so you can create the perfect piece that is unique for you. If you own your own business, what a fun and unique way to promote what you do. Check them out online at thebar2go.com. That is the number 2 in the Bar to Go. If you have wholesale questions, call my friend Isabel Clark at 504-481-1297. Finally, we are sponsored by the Neely Family Distillery. NFD is a family-owned business that keeps ringing up awards in the spirits world. Head to Sparta, Kentucky to experience the family history, award-winning spirits, and meet the Neely family. Check them out online at neelyfamilydistillery.com. Now, on to the show.
Let's drink!
Welcome to the Bourbon Daily, the podcast about everything bourbon delivered to you every day of the week. Today on the show, we wonder just how soon until every single podcast has a bourbon brand. My name is Miss Beka Sue. Please join me in welcoming my co-host Steve Akeley, along with our special guests Katie Joyce and Kathy Cool.
Hey gang, what's up?
Howdy.
Hello.
Hello. So yes, obviously we'll talk about Pursuit and their brand and how successful they've been so far to their credit and how many others are going to be following suit. I think that's going to become a very big thing because I think they've already had some great success with that brand and we do know that there's already a couple more podcasts that have a whiskey out there already, and I just think it's going to be the next big thing that's kind of along the lines of celebrity bourbon. But we'll do that after the break. For right now, Miss Beka Sue said there's something she wanted to talk about. What is that, Beka?
This is bourbon podcast focused. I'm wondering if you ever, for one, eat any snacks during podcasts. For two, what is your snack of choice? Or three, you're just going to eat a full fucking meal, because I know one person on this podcast will just eat full meals during a podcast.
Katie.
She knows who she is.
100% Katie.
And so I'm just wondering
pizzas
if
delivered,
you guys,
everything else.
If you guys
Delivered
eat,
to her desk.
Oh yeah, I don't leave the screen is the important part here.
Yeah, I just want to know if you guys are eating during the podcast. If you do, is it full dinner or is it just snacks?
Okay.
And if it is snacks,
question.
what are your snacks of choice?
Yeah. I don't eat during the podcast. I've not neither snacks nor meals, so I'm just here. So
I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
In
I've
the
never had
5
any.
years that I've been podcasting with Steve, I've never once seen you snack on a podcast.
no,
Never.
never. It's
Never.
not my thing.
It's not. It's not
You
something
may
you'll
have
do.
asked the wrong group because nor do I.
Okay. Well,
Oh.
there's
No,
one
I
of
didn't.
us.
I didn't fully ask the wrong. group.
Right, there's one of us.
Then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm sitting here. I didn't bring any snacks with me today, and I was really regretting it. Sitting here, I was like,
She's texting her boyfriend, make
Yeah.
me some fucking dinner.
I just recently asked him to let the dog out, so I was gonna let a few more minutes go by, but I was getting ready to text him, ask him to bring a snack over. But
What kind of
think-
snack?
Is the snack going to have like 3 courses and like a bottle of
Right.
wine that pairs well?
well, I
Yeah.
usually choose something that pairs with my whiskey, so it's just
Okay.
gonna coordinate. But I try to be cognizant of the sound, so I don't have anything too crunchy. No over toasted bread to pick up
Okay,
on the
sure.
sound. It's a little inconvenient when I have to keep muting myself to like crunch my pretzels. The same issue goes for court. If it's a long court date and I'm snacking in court, and you got to like put the pretzel in your mouth and let it sit for a little bit before.
Why are you eating
chomp
fucking
down.
pretzels so much?
Sometimes I'm stuck in court like all.
Why are you eating pretzels though?
There's easy to
like-
have in my briefcase. It doesn't
What a-
like it can just sit there in a bag.
String cheese,
I like
maybe.
cranberries.
Cranberries,
cranberries would be better.
raisins,
Yeah.
prunes. Just eat a whole bag of prunes.
So you're while a case is going on that you are representing.
No, not one of my cases. It'll be if there's a docket. There's a whole lot of
I
cases.
thought so too. I thought she just
snapped away. She's like,
She just pulled
objection.
right out of her
Matthews
briefcase.
slaughtered his entire family.
I get my popcorn out.
I
I
object. Pretzels, cheese or mustard.
No, if it's not my case, but I can't necessarily go anywhere because I'm probably going to be back on a case in a few minutes because I've got like 24 cases that day. Then when I've got, my 2 minutes sitting to the side, but I've been there all day, I pull a snack out of my briefcase.
So how many 3-course meals have you had on the podcast?
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Oh, man, probably more often than I have not been eating. Like, count up the podcasts I've done. I've probably been eating during them.
Yeah, she normally has food. I mean,
Also, when we record it's 6:00 here on a Sunday when we're eating. That's dinner time for me.
I understand.
And because we're going a few hours typically. So this is all through dinner time. So I either got to end my Sunday activities early in order to eat before coming on. Clearly, that's not an option. Or if it's a Friday, I've probably had a busy Friday, was at the office. If I tried to get anything else in by the time we start recording, I mean, again, perfect time to be eating dinner. I'm actually sitting down in a stationary position. And so might as well be eating. Too.
So your boyfriend just makes you meals?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't cook. That's
makes the meals or takes delivery of the food, pizza or whatever. Yeah.
Because a lot of times if we order pizza at the end of the day, like especially on like a Friday, it doesn't get here for quite a while. So it takes a while. But that's.
I've been known to snack on. I've had meals somewhat on shows, but I don't do it too often. Sometimes I get a little snack. I got some popcorn tonight that I just burned the fucking shit out of. Like I was trying to get on the shows. I was like waiting for the computer to load up. I'm like, I'll just make some popcorn real quick. And it just burned it. Like there were just chunks burned together because I was not paying attention. But generally I'm not usually eating something. It just kind of depends. If I like day drank all day and then I'm just like trashed almost on the shows, only happened maybe once.
But you also have to talk a lot more than I do. I have found this from the one time that I did your role in this podcast.
Right.
I'm like, holy cow. You have to be on top of your game. You have to be saying way more things. There's a lot of times you can just sit back while someone else is giving like their answer to it. You've got time for snacking.
There's actually on occasion some shows that I look at who's going to be on the show, and I am a co-host, and I look at who's going to be on the show and I go, I don't have to talk at all tonight. I go, all I have to do is intro the show and I can
just
sit back, relax. I don't have to say a fucking word the entire night because I know all these people are going to be, I was going to say motherfuckers, are going to just be just talking the entire time. Yeah. I mean, and Steve knows. Steve, like literally I've said to Steve, like, well, I guess we don't have to talk. And he's like, LOL, I know.
Right.
And it's not Steve that's doing all talking. We'll have on occasion, we've had like 6 people on a show. Yeah. And we've had like all talkers. And so me and Steve are just like set back. We're like on our phones. We're like, all right, guys.
Texting one another.
We're like, you guys have
conversations.
Fun.
That's when we bond.
We sit there and we're just texting going,
that's our time together.
All these assholes.
You could be bonding over a snack or a full meal and you're not. You're missing out.
Yeah.
You could be coordinating the pizza that you order.
Yeah. Trying to think of everyone else we podcast with. Is there anyone else who famously snacks on the podcast? I think Katie
I kind of love that this is my thing.
I think it's Katie's thing.
This was geared definitely more towards Katie because I've just seen like her boyfriend like bringing like plates of food to her, and she's sitting there on mute.
Pork steaks and green beans.
Like, sorry. Yep. Hello. I totally agree.
Yeah. And clicks the microphone
mute back on.
She doesn't even know what's being talked about at that point, but just wants to participate. Right.
Yeah. I'm sure there's someone else, but really this was geared towards Katie just because I had made popcorn tonight and was like, I'm going to eat some popcorn on the show.
Right. Enjoying Katie. And then Katie hasn't had anything yet.
It was funny because when we started up, before we started recording, we could hear like the little bit of the crunchiness of your popcorn. And I was like, that's not a good podcast snack. You'd have to constantly mute yourself.
And I haven't been eating it since.
You haven't been.
That's what we call that a pre-show snack, in between show snack. But I haven't been sitting here just
God.
No, I
Popcorn's
definitely
flying out of her mouth.
car.
Yeah.
I certainly hope that if I was ever snacking to the point that you're hearing all the crunching, that someone would message me and be like, "Hey, dumbass, mute yourself if you're going to be crunching."
I think
Hell no.
everyone is going to have a podcast, a bourbon podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be horrendous.
Yep.
What's funny is that she just had to eat all of the crusty burnt stuff.
All the burnt
left in the
stuff.
bowl.
That was
Right, to
literally
make a
all
point.
burnt popcorn. I just
Yeah.
grabbed it and I was
To
like,
do a visual on an audio podcast. That's how committed she is.
yeah,
Yeah. So
that
there
was
you go.
dumb.
All right. On that note, it is time to drink. What is everyone drinking? Let's start with Beka this time. Beka, what do you got?
Let's see here. Tonight, I've got some official deer hammer that has my
Your
signature on it
Yeah.
and has me as a corn face,
Yes. The corn face Beka.
the old corn face.
And I'm on the label.
The old
Before I
corn
got
face
discontinued.
Beka.
Yeah. Corn face Beka. Yeah.
For our hickory smoked whiskey from Deer Hammer. I
Yep.
haven't opened this for a while. Let's see how this does. Which this only makes sense. It actually pairs well with my burnt popcorn because this is hickory
Nice.
smoked
There you go.
Yes.
as opposed to microwave burned.
Okay.
Ooh,
Very
that was
good. That's very, very, very good. So quite surprising, actually. It was that good. All right. Next up is going to be Katie.
I have Boxing Bear whiskey, which I'd like to point out the wonderful cleanliness of the outside of this bottle that was cleaned and polished, and then the straightness of the label that was put on here on the top.
That's all stuff you did for that, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
all with my involvement of my
the bottle.
contribution to this bottle here.
Okay.
I
Have you
was
worked for him more than one time, or did you just go down there that one time?
just the one time. I just talk about it as much as possible.
Okay. Okay. That was nice. It was cute, but nowhere near as good as Becca's. So
very
Becca's was explosive. Demetrius Kane's got it going on. He has a whole army of people that go down there and do the work for him. And
Yeah, that's the best part.
I know.
is that we're
Yeah.
you're just like, yeah, I'll come do all the work.
And
all
you
the
know what I'm
bottling.
picturing? I'm picturing Tony Vitale and like 16 women.
Right. Oh yeah.
And
Exactly.
then it gives you a sense of like ownership. Like if I see any of his bottles ever in a store, I'm like, oh, let's dust that off, straighten it up. Like he's just got a
Right.
little army out there of like fixing all the bottles.
Yeah. It does amaze
No
me.
one in Kentucky feels that way.
Yeah. It amazes me how many times you get bottles and they come out of the case and they're dusty. So I can see why he does them. Yeah.
Welcome to the world of Missouri whiskey, where we all take ownership in every bottle.
Yes, we do.
All right, Kathy, you look like you're ready to go. What do you got?
I have seagrass.
Seagrass. Oh, nice. Okay. That was also good. That was solid. Solid. Not as good as Becca's. Becca's still got the lead. I think she's probably going to win it. I've got Baker's 7 here, the new single barrel one, not the old Baker's. And this is from my buddy Rick the Legend Brenner. So I was gifted this bottle after we did that event for him by his daughter Jen. So it's from his personal collection, though. So here we go. Decent. I thought we all did pretty good there, but of course Beka was the standout. She wins. So cheers to Beka.
Because she had a coordinated
Cheers.
snack. That's what
Mhm.
Exactly.
was a winner.
Yeah.
This burnt popcorn goes so good with my smoked whiskey.
Oh yeah. It's a perfect touch to it for sure. For sure. All right. Well, we'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking about podcasts. Are they all getting ready to have a bourbon brand? Or as they say in Kentucky, are they fixing to get a bourbon brand? We'll do that in just a few. Okay, let's talk about the people that make these shows happen. First up is the Stave and Thief Society. Via their in-person class at Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, the Stave and Thief Society is the place where you, a bourbon enthusiast, can expand your knowledge and emerge an executive bourbon steward. In 2017, I completed my executive bourbon steward certification. It's the most comprehensive bourbon certification available and connects you with an expansive network of bourbon enthusiasts and professionals. Check out the full listing of in-person and online certifications and join the society today by enrolling at staveandthief.com. We're also sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop focuses exclusively on barrel picks. It's the job of owners Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot to seek out distilleries that are making the best whiskey in the world, taste through their barrels, and select the ones that are off-profile in the best way possible. They have high standards and refuse to allow anything into their store other than something they would be proud to have their name on. This leads to some really awkward conversations with distilleries that can't make it, but they do it for you, their customers. Learn more about what is going on at their St. Louis-based store by heading over to abvbarrelshop.com. Last but not least, we are sponsored by Neely Family Distillery. Royce Neely is the 11th generation distiller in one of America's oldest distilling families. A visit to Neely Family Distillery takes you through family history, where you can see all the artifacts and newspaper clippings through the years from this family that started distilling in America after James Neely arrived from Northern Ireland in 1740. Today, Royce Neely and his team are crafting some of the best spirits in America. Their bourbon and absinthe offerings keep winning top honors in the spirits competitions. Recently, their absinthe made history as the first platinum winner in the absinthe category at the San Francisco Spirits Competition. Neely Family Distillery is definitely a bucket list destination if you are a bourbon fan. Learn more about their spirit offerings, visiting their facility, and the awards they have collected over at NeelyFamilyDistillery.com.
As Beka said, everybody's bringing trash. I'm stepping up my game with a brand new single barrel from Neely Family Distillery. This is the Autumn Vanilla single barrel.
Nice.
I've already preemptively taken the plastic off, not wasting anybody's time, Beka. And then let's see if this cork pop goes.
Welcome back to the Bourbon Daily. Today we're wondering if all the bourbon podcasts are fixing to get a bourbon brand.
I feel like we really need to come back just with the laughing first.
I feel like, Bourbon Pursuit, to their credit, they've done a great job with their brand. They've rolled it out into multiple states, and now they're getting their own little, small distillery, similar to what Bronner's got. So it's going to be, so they'll be making some whiskey. I'm sure they still are going to have to source. We're not talking about a big enough still where they can just shut down production or sourcing. But, they'll have some sort of visitor experience. I don't know what it's going to look like. I have no idea, but they'll have a visitor experience. They'll be making whiskey, and I think it takes it to the next level. But what I also think it does is I think everyone and their brother is going to be like, hey, those guys have a podcast. I have a podcast. They have a bourbon brand. Well, I need a bourbon brand. And also, I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into this behind the scenes. There's a big financial thing you got to put out there, but I don't think people start thinking about that. They just think, well, they did it, I can do it. And I think there's going to be a rush to getting sourced bourbon brands for podcasts coming up. And I know that there's a couple that are out there already, and besides Pursuit, and I think there'll be many more on the way. What do you guys think?
Well, yep. I think you have a built-in support group, so it makes sense in a podcast. There's a few other podcasts I listen to, and if they have a product of whether it's their merch or I've done cocktail kits, so a few different things that because it's from this podcast that if I'm spending my time listening to them, I'm going to spend my money on whatever they endorse usually anyway.
Right.
So I see why the thought process works well in the podcast world. Also, I think you're hit it spot on, Stephen, that it's going to be an easy idea to replicate. Right. They're like, oh, well, easy idea, copy and paste, but then we'll have technically a different brand. So it's going to be our own. I agree, there's going to be a bunch of people at least thinking about it. I don't know if a bunch will actually make it all the way to completing it, though.
Okay. I do think that starting a source brand is actually relatively easy. Starting it because you start out, even if it's just one barrel, you get that bottle. There's places that will do that for you. And I tell you what, even selling that first barrel is not too bad because, again, like Katie said, there's kind of this built-in audience that's going to buy it and support it. And I think it's going to look great. But how do you replicate that? Because having a brand isn't about selling just one bottle. It's about selling the next bottle and then the bottle after that and the bottle after that. So that's where it gets a little difficult. And of course, it ends up being long term, as you want to grow it, it becomes more expensive. Initially, the price of a barrel is not an ungodly amount, an amount that most people wouldn't have access to if they don't have cash on hand to go to a bank and make it happen. But that's what I think is going to happen. I feel like everyone's going to jump in. I just don't know that they're going to last, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think that there's really only so much that obviously having a lot of followers is a big deal, but they can't buy every single one that you do. I mean, they could, I guess. There's some, I guess, groups and stuff that they do sell out every single one. It's just, I don't feel like it's fully sustainable. And also there's so many things already on the shelf. And now if it's a really good whiskey brand, I think that they just discount how much it's going to cost too. Right. It's not cheap.
Right.
To have a distillery.
Don't you think that, Beka, you're in the business, so don't you think most people, if they're toying around with the idea, all they do is start checking the prices of the barrels, and they think that's their cost to get in this business. What's the cost of one barrel? And it could be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. I could get $6,000. That's like a third of a price of a cheap car.
They forget that there's drains you need to add to your distillery. You have to have a distillery, or if you're buying an existing building, you have to add in floor drains, which is a huge fucking deal. It's not just a still. You need to have a strip. Ideally, you're going to have a strip still and a finishing still. You're going to have tanks. People don't realize how much fucking tanks are. Tanks are expensive. Just a regular stainless steel tank, which I guess you can just buy those, IBC, just plastic tank, totes, I guess, if you wanted to. You can do that, I guess.
Who wants that, though?
Just stainless tanks, a blending tank, storage tanks, barrels, somewhere to put those barrels at, a forklift, because you have to move those barrels. You can roll them to a point, but you need to have a forklift. Then you have to get your forks for the forklift. And then you have to do piping. You're going to have to get some sort of fans to have some air movement in your distillery. You're going to have a seed cleaner. You're going to have a roller mill or a hammer mill. You have to have bins. There's so much stuff that people, I think, don't realize go into an actual distillery. And that doesn't mean that
I honestly don't think most of them will do that, though, because most of them are just half-assed into podcasts.
But having a brand? Yeah, I guess they can have a brand, but how much can you actually distribute that brand?
I know.
Unless you are unless you do have a massive podcast, which some of these guys do have, but you need to understand how many people are actually listening to your show.
Not just listening, but willing to buy over and over and over again. And are you going to go with something consistent, or are you going to do barrel picks so it's different every time, and every podcast you market how different it is and how great it is, or are you just going to tell them about the same thing over and over? Right. And then once they've
if your business model is just a source from Barton or Dickel or MGP, and that's all you're doing is then bottling it, that's probably not enough to really create a true brand in this day and age, I don't think. You got to finish it. You got to do something different, right?
Not to have a consistent brand, I don't think, because that's the exact same thing that everyone's already buying on the shelf.
Right.
That's they can buy it from you.
It's out there.
For let's say $65, but then they can also buy it from Joe Schmo's podcast, and they've got it for $55. And they can also buy it from just the fucking distillery itself for $35. So why would they consistently buy your brand if it's marked up or whatever else? Say if it's the exact same thing,
a different label and your name on it.
Consumers don't really know what's going on, so yes, they might do it, but only for so long.
But that's, to Kathy's point, that's the other thing that is the downfall of these. People have a podcast and they feel pretty good about it, but then they have, 800 downloads a month. And they think, well, 800 people buying my whiskey. There's not 800 people that are going to buy your whiskey. It's just, you need thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads to really be a true podcast that might have a chance to release a whiskey. Maybe. But yeah.
And even then, I think there's different ways of doing it. You could be involved with a single barrel program through a distillery in order to have we did a barrel pick, and
that would be a smarter idea.
Then you can do a custom label that's included on it. You can do, and so there's ways to do those one-off. And even if it is successful and you've got a group in your podcast that's wanting to repeatedly buy this, just go do that again. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why they're wanting to take more of the.
I think they want to
ownership
monetize
in
it
it.
though. Because if you go work with the distillery is going to be the one making the money, and they'll be like, "Man, I drove all those sales. I want that money." And then they're going to be like, "We'll just start our own."
So, but think about all the time and commitment that takes.
Right.
Are they going to be able to maintain this is it a high quality podcast and now they have another high quality job?
No.
Entrepreneurs spend countless hours promoting all these different projects. Where are you going to put your focus? And are you going to, when you talk about other bourbons on your podcast, are they going to think anything about that?
Honestly, that's, I think, the worst thing is, I think that's the one, I don't want to say a downfall, but I think that makes things cloudy, sort of, when you have a podcast and you start your own brand.
You lose all objectivity.
Is you talking about, like, you're going to obviously promote your own bourbon all the time. Like, obviously, why would you not? But I think it kind of diminishes your viewpoint on anything else, because you're like, well, this is pretty good, but like compared to ours, like ours is way better. And like, who's going to believe you at that point?
Right.
And even if they don't say that, aren't listeners going to be like, well, if that's so good, then why doesn't theirs taste like that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like a really big uphill battle to me.
Yeah.
It does, but I don't think
life where I want downhill battles.
Steve's asking because Steve is starting his own whiskey.
I mean, I have, I've got a liquor store, so I've got different. I wanted to come up with an idea. I wanted to come up with an idea that I partnered with distilleries. Not I'm working against them. I'm in conflict with them. My thing is I like you. I came on the podcast. I can help sell some of your products. So mine's different. Now we are going to have a couple private labels in there because that's an important component to a business of owning a liquor store. So some people could say, well, we've kind of got a brand. Maybe, but again, we're a liquor store. Liquor stores have private brands. I mean, we haven't reinvented the wheel with that. That's just part of the business model for ones that are successful. So we're doing a little bit of that for sure. But this will be interesting. Mark my words. I'm telling you, you're going to start seeing more bourbon podcasts because Pursuit has been incredibly successful. Now the idea that they're opening their own distillery and they'll have challenges like Beka was talking about, but I think forward facing, of course, it'll look really good because that's going to be what they put out in the media for sure. That's what you have to do is, things are going well and it's exciting and fun. And I think other podcasts are just going to take note and they're being like, they're doing that. I can do it too. So we'll see. We'll see if who jumps in. So should be interesting. On that note, we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Kathy, we're going to start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me building my own whiskey. No, I'm not getting anywhere near that.
You should do that.
Find me on Instagram, occasionally posting a picture of a drink of bourbon or some silliness on KK Cast Strength.
All right, Katie.
You can find me over on Instagram at Katie Proof.
All right, Miss Beka Sue.
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Miss Beka Sue, 1K, no C's.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got that company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. That's the one you're going to need to check out. Everything that we do is out there. We put all of our previous shows, our blogs, so much more, abvnetwork.com. Come by and see us, that ABV Barrel Shop. Maybe check out some of our private labels. We're getting ready to launch a new brand. I'm kidding. So check us out online, abvbarrelshop.com. Miss Beka Sue, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd just like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review that includes comments. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. If you like what we're doing, we ask you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
Great job today, gang. For audience, we'll have a brand new show for you tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace. Before we finish the show, let's talk about some of the great companies that support the ABV network. First up is Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro is owned and operated by Russell Creed, who makes stills for the hobby distiller. He offers a one-stop shop for everything the at-home distiller needs. Whether it's a small, experimental stovetop still or something bigger you run outside, he has the still or parts you would have difficulty fabricating yourself if you were trying to build a DIY still project. Additionally, he has resources to assist in creating unique distilled spirits, including heirloom grains, barrels for aging, and recipes. Check out Russell's company online at moonshinestillpro.com. Finally, I have a question for you. Have you ever boxed a bear? Of course not. That'd be silly. Bears really don't follow the rules, so shots in the back of the head, punches to the nuts, and scrums after the bell would be the norm. A better idea would be to enjoy Boxing Bear Whiskey, a brand crafted by Nobleton's Distilling House in Union, Missouri, and sold exclusively at the ABV Barrel Shop in suburban St. Louis. This is a popular offering that sells out quickly, but when you are in town, stop by the ABV Barrel Shop and see if they have it in stock. Better yet, sign up for their email and text distribution over at abvbarrelshop.com and you'll know exactly when it is in stock. This is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network, signing off. We thank you for listening to our programming and truly appreciate your support.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.